Hey guys, Fusebox back on Raid Shadow Legends. We're going to talk about damage output, multipliers, gear, the things that people need to watch out for, and a full explanation. I've actually attempted this before. It was a while back, so didn't have as many viewers, but it's super important. So we'll put it to the test so you can see it and understand it. We're going to jump right into it. And then I'm going to strip some gear, and we're going to put the exact same gear on a couple of heroes. That way we can test them absolutely to the max. So let's talk about multipliers. I have to bring up a very specific thing that happened one time to kind of drive this home. I did a video a long time ago on Pitiless One. He's actually an amazing damage dealer. He still is. Now, power creep is set in. That was a year ago. There are enough enemies in the top 15% or champions in the top 15% of damage output in the game that he actually moved down to the strong level. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that does mean he's at the top of the strong level. He still has godlike attacks, and he's so rapid at coming back. He's actually an amazing hero just for damage. He doesn't do a whole lot else. But it was an important video to put out. He's kind of being overlooked. All right, and somebody commented, well, Kale has a much higher multiplier on his A1 and A2. He does much more damage. Well, that's just not true. It's just not true. So we have to talk about multipliers. So we'll use that example as a perfect example. We'll just go over an A1. It's as easy to understand. And then I'm going to show an extreme example that will drive the point home. We don't even have to test it. It's so clear. And then we're going to do a little talking about gear. So let's try to get through it quickly. Let's look at Kel. All right. So Kel is an amazing rare. Don't get me wrong. I just helped somebody build a clan boss team, and I couldn't use some of their amazing champions to do a budget unkillable. They had moves that were throwing things off, continuous heals, messing up the stun tank, and we used Kel to get a 1 key on Nightmare. Absolutely can still be a solid hero. But look at his A1. This is a 3.5 attack on an A1. But now I want to real quick talk about hellhades.com. There are several places you can go to look at multipliers. I'm going to tell you right now why you want to go to hellhades.com. Right here where it says average. This is something that this is more important than the multiplier. If you don't know how to do the multiplier work, then ignore that number. And I'm going to show you why. So this is an average attack. That's a good multiplier on an A1, by the way, a very good one. So we have to figure out why is it considered an average attack. Then his A2 is a strong attack with a pretty big multiplier, 4.65. And then he has a pathetic A3. It's a weak attack. Weak is like the bottom 15-20% of the game. Average is kind of up to about 50%. On hellhades.com, that's why you'll see real quick why you can use this to judge damage much more efficiently than the multiplier. And then godlike is the top 15%, I believe he said, in the game, and then strong is somewhere in between that 15% and the 50%. So it kind of puts it into quadrants, lets you know how your damage is dealt. You know, if you go anywhere else to any spreadsheet and look at the multipliers, this is why you're going to get thrown off. This is Pitiless One. Okay, the A1 is a godlike attack with a 1.85 multiplier. Okay, this is why the guy was arguing with me. And also, no, I'm looking at the wrong one. 2.2, excuse me. A 2.2 multiplier, but it's godlike on damage. It's really easy to figure out why in a minute. And then a 3.9, which is less than 4.65 on kill. And it is a stronger move. But, man, the argument, it wasn't an argument, but it's so hard to explain to somebody that multiplier doesn't mean anything. So real quick, how do multipliers work? Okay, so I will show this in action, but Trunda, we'll look at her A1 real quick. She has a 1.85 multiplier. Obviously, she hits hard, even on her A1. So you're seeing how ridiculous multipliers are if you don't know what you're multiplying against. So consider this. She's multiplying against 1600 on her attack. Okay, so not only that, but we got to look at skills. Her A1, not only does she have a way high base stat of attack, she also gets 20 more % damage before you use the multiplier. So if I take this gear and think of it this way, her attack percentage chest, 60% attack. Let's go with 50% because it's really easy to work with. If Trunda had a 200 base attack and Kale had a 100 base attack, and you put on a 50% attack chest, Well, she's going to get 100 extra attack, putting her at 300, whereas Kel gets 50, putting him at 150 with the same exact gear. You're starting to see where we're going. So that base number matters hugely. And then if Kel doesn't get as much multiplied from his book damage, then you're even stretching out further and further away. And the more attack value you put on this gear, the more she's going to shine, Trunda in this case, than Kel will with the exact same gear. Because the further you start putting multipliers of percentage attack and flat stat attack on her, it's going to grow. The gap between their damage grows more and more, the better your gear gets. So this is just a simple truth. Before the multiplier matters. So you could take that 1.85, multiply it onto her 6,000 attack, and put that same gear on Kel and have 3,400 attack. And even though you're multiplying it by what was his 3.5, it's going to come out way below hers. And then there's other things you want to look at. Look at her A1. Attacks one enemy 2 times. All right. So if Kel's going to attack 1 time, he actually attacks, attacks 1 enemy on his A1. That's 1 hit with that bigger multiplier. She's getting 2 smaller multipliers, but 2 hits. Same as Pitiless One. He's going to get 2 attacks. He's got a lot of book damage. He has higher base attack stat. This is why the number that your multiplier is only as good as the number it's multiplying against. Higher base stats, that's why epics and then legendaries tend to put out more damage. They tend to have higher base stats in their specific area. So let's put it to the test. Okay, we're going to take all the gear off of, look at this. It costs so much silver just to take Plarium. What are you doing? Why does it cost me millions of silver to take gear off of a hero? Just to take their clothes off, I got to pay all this silver. So let me strip all of his gear off. I'm going to strip Pitiless One. We're going to go in, do a quick A1 test, and show how this works. Okay, to make this perfectly fair, we're going to make sure the masteries are the same. We probably don't want Elm Smasher. This is going to be brutal here. So I'm going to have to reset this. Basically, we're going to take the exact same masteries on each one. So let's go down a very simplistic tree. We just want to get to, we'll take the crit rate buff. Yeah, so many. All right, we'll go right here. The crit damage buff. We'll take those masteries and nothing else. This is a pretty simple tree to follow. That way they end up with the exact same masteries. We're not going to wear any jewelry because there are different factions. We don't want to skew this with different attack values. So whatever attack percentages and flat stat, by the way, the more flat stat you add, the more Kel benefits. The more attack percentage you add, which is usually the favorable one, the more we actually will benefit with whoever we do the test with. So we do have like a triple roll on flat attack. That's going to help out Kel. But these big attack percentages, they're going to actually help out our, I guess, Pitiless One or 2 will do. All right, so we're not worried about big numbers. These are good numbers without jewelry, but we're looking at where we are. This lands Kel at 2,900 attack, 2,903. That's going to be bigger when we put it on anybody else. If we put it on somebody like Pitiless One, that's going to be a bigger number because it has a bigger base value. There's nothing you can do about that. Equal gear is not equal on champions. That's how multipliers work. Even though Kel has a larger multiplier, we're going to see more damage out of Pitiless One. They're both going to have 100% crit in this exact same gear, and then the crit damage should average out the same, 240. So there we go. That's all we need to do a test. Let me real quick just take him into like the first stage of Doom Tower, and let's check his A1 out a couple of times. Damage varies, so we'll do this several times. Let's go to normal mode. All right, so we'll just go into we'll go into one of these early stages and check out his A1. We'll do it multiple times, and then we'll compare it to the exact same gear on somebody with smaller multipliers but better base stats. So, oh, he's not geared yet. Where is my Kel? Here we go. Make sure to take this off auto. We can slow it down so the numbers float just a little bit longer. This is totally important to understand, to actually understand how this works. So A1, 17,000. probably won't survive too many. Actually, that's what we're going to do. A1, 17,000. Let's real quick do this a few times. You definitely want to get a feel for what that damage is going to be. It's always going to crit as long as we're hitting the same Trunda. All right, take 2, same Trunda. We went from 17,000 to about 15,000 there. So we'll do this again. Definitely want to get a feel because there will be variance both ways. So replay this. A1 Trunda. 16,000. So we're ranging 15 to 17,000 so far. We'll definitely do it one more time. That's a pretty big range. And remember, one of the things you have to consider, this is a single target. All right, there we go. We're probably averaging 15.5, right? So let's get out of here. Let me fix up this exact gear on Pitiless one. All right, I'm just going to swap the gear right over, and this is going to cost a fortune. Why does it cost so much just to undress and get back dressed? Be right back. Okay. Why does it cost so much to go to the changing room? All right, but exact same gear on Pitiless one. No jewelry. Just like we said, we're going to have a higher attack value, and everything else should be equal and the same. So I might have to look at my masteries. Okay, I do need to change these real quick. I'm going to be out of gems just for doing a test. Good grief, the things I do. All right. But it's worth seeing. This is definitely worth knowing. So let me follow that same tree. Really, the only thing that's going to matter is flawless execution. Okay, so our final build now is going to be with the exact same gear. We're going to have better base damage without question. And also, again, when we're looking at his A1, we're getting a 2-hitter with a smaller multiplier. But we're getting a lot of book damage. Kel may actually have this similar book damage. Let me see. Yeah, he actually gets similar book damage. So this is going to be a pretty good test. Let me get back to Doom Tower normal, stage 6. All right, here we go. Half the multiplier, about half the multiplier of Kel. Maybe actually less than half. So A1, same Trunda. We are the same affinity, so it's a perfect test. We've got 23,000. So let's do this again. 23,000 compared to 17,000 was our first hit last time. Let's replay this a few times because it's going to vary. So yeah, oh, I hit the wrong enemy, but that was 20,000. We want to hit the same Trunda. She's going to have less defensive stats, so we might as well forget that one, but it's showing about the same damage. Again, yeah, 23,000. And let's do this 4 times as last time. But clearly, so far, even our lower hits are going to get us far above the higher hits of Kel, right? Yeah, we're looking at 20. This is actually pretty stable. You don't usually get damage this stable, by the way. Let's do it one more time. And also, I can guarantee you, even though they're both rated strong, his A2 does more damage. I've done these tests in the past. So it's just all about understanding multipliers. And before, I really suggest going to hellhades.com, not these other Ayumi Love and all these other places. They give you a number, and that number means nothing. Let me show you an example that'll blow your mind. So let's get out of here. Let's look at Trunda. All right, Trunda Guilt, whatever. She's got her A1, again, 1.85. Let that sink in for a minute. Just 1.85. It's a 2-hitter with huge, much more base stats than you have on Pitiless one and a lot of book damage. But the A2, right? Let's look at this A2. Attacks one enemy and then it attacks all other enemies. It's almost kind of like a double hit. It's kind of a unique hit. There are a few like this in the game. It has 20% damage added by books. Again, the base attack is much higher. And it's kind of a double hit. And then the biggest slam in the game, right? This, now think this one through. The biggest hit in the game, right? Pretty much the biggest hit in the game. There are some circumstantial things. 3% multiplier. If you're going to look at other heroes and look at their multiplier and then come at people saying, no, they have a much higher or much lower multiplier, then let's start with Trunda. A 3 multiplier. Now, it's a double hit. Again, you got to take that into account, but you have to take that into account for every hero that gets a double hit or has some hidden multiplier like Seer. It's ridiculous, right? 3% is all it takes to turn this into the best hitting move in the game. There's a lot going on in here, but it's absolutely pretty much undisputably the hit that everybody wants, right? The nuker everybody wants. But to drive this point home, let's pull up Brogni. All right, Brogni here. So his A1 has a 6.5. This must be the best hit in the game, right? Well, no, it is a strong move. He has strong attacks, but we're going to talk about why they're strong in a minute. That 6.5 is on a ridiculously low base stat. Let's real quick pull up Brogni. Where is the big boy? Love this guy. Not knocking on Under Priest Brogni at all. I'm just trying to fully explain. Look at this base attack. 782. Take him, set him beside Trunda, put that same attack percentage chest on him, maybe those attack percent boots with speed under him, and he's going to fall behind so fast it's unbelievable. To even keep him doing a strong attack instead of a godlike attack the way Trunda is, they have to give him these giant multipliers. It doesn't mean he's stronger. It means that his damage needs that big multiplier to do damage. Now his A2, this is simply made 6.6 because it has to do enough damage to increase the shields enough to make this move worth the value of the move. It's kind of like if you look at Miscreated Monster, without a decent multiplier on an AoE, even though his base stats aren't that amazing. Now, he's a different creature. He's HP based, but you have to have this big attack multiplier on somebody with such low attack. That's why people who actually build him for damage really got to push to get him at 3,500 attack, whereas the same kind of gear could get you 6,500 to 7,000 on Trunda. But to get damage out of him, he has to have this big multiplier, right? And it doesn't make him a godlike attack. It just makes him a strong hero, and that strong damage is so that will actually build up his shield and do what he was designed to do. That's really all it's for. Now let's talk a little bit about gear. Now that you understand multipliers, and hopefully we'll just use Hell Haiti. I really think if you're just going to look at a number and decide is it strong or not, then you're better off to look at the overall grading on hellhades.com. Just look at that and it'll tell you right now if it's strong, it's worth putting a damage type build on that hero. If it's average, then probably not such a big deal. If it is godlike, then for sure it is somebody you might want to go ahead and put in that that savage gear you've been holding on to, things like that. Now let's talk about a couple of rares that I have heard some of the content creators out there say actually hit like a truck. It's just not true. There's Bellower and there's Fellhound, okay? They have both can be used to be amazing farmers. Fellhound is pretty much, you can't beat him in the game. He's an amazing farmer because he has a fast A1. The animation's fast. Bellower has all AoEs. So they can be made to be a fast farmer simply because they hit everybody every time they take a turn. That's the only reason. Let's pull up some numbers. Look at these numbers. We've got weak and average hits on these guys, both of them. Let's look at Fellhound. Same thing. You have to have good enough gear just to farm stage 12-3 brutal, and don't let that be your benchmark. It can be a benchmark to compare one to another, but 12-3 brutal is not exactly where this game's going. When it comes to play, they're not that hard to kill, all right? That's not in-game stuff. These are weak heroes. There's your proof. There's your evidence. There's everything you need to see. They need really good gear. Mine, I do the stun tank. I make him tanky as heck, fast as you can in a stun set. I pretty much lock in Bellower's A1, by the way, because just this A1 actually has a chance to block active skills on everybody and stun them every time he takes a move, and I don't even need the rest. Super amazing champ. But you can build him out to be a farmer, but then he's not going to do much work in other content for you. Same with Fellhound. It doesn't make him a strong hero. They just have now Fellhound's unique because you can add both attack and defense to get your big stats, and that can help you out if you don't have perfect gear, but you still need really strong crit rate and crit damage to get through those waves and never miss a kill. Really good build on Masteries to get that done. They're weak heroes. These are very weak heroes that do amazing things. So that's where gear comes into play. You can take that in-game gear and put it on anybody, and get decent damage out of them. But that in-game gear is going to do far more on a hero that really does have multipliers that line up with good book damage. And I can't stress that enough. When you're building a strong hero, you've got Calvalax. Matter of fact, that's a great example. Calvalax, super strong hero. Everything he does is godlike at the end of the game. So he is worth putting in high damage gear. Now, the great thing about him, you get him and you don't have books, you can use him. The poison value is there and he still hits pretty hard. But almost everything he has is book damage, and that's a lot of book damage. This is just as important on a hero that you want damage out of as all of the cooldowns on typical heroes. You do want that extra damage on these hits. A strong hitting hero gets more out of this percentage because he has decent, look at this, higher than Trunda, decent base stats. So those percentage, that 20% book damage does far less for Kel as it does for Calvalax or Trunda. So you want to kind of understand all this, and I'm going to pretty much leave it at that. I just wanted you to see it, understand it, so that you don't start looking at a number and making assumptions on somebody. There is a quick way to do it. Go to hellhades.com and just look at the quadrant that they're in. If they're strong, they're usable for damage. They usually have more utility than that. If they're godlike, they're usable for sure, just for damage. I wanted to make sure that you understood why the word lie is in multipliers, because I've had a lot of people try to push back on me for different things where they're just wrong. And I don't like having to tell people that they're wrong because most people don't want to hear the explanation. So here's the explanation so that you can start building heroes to their most, trying to get the most utility and potential out of them, not putting the wrong gear. If you only have a few good sets of Savage, you want to put them on the right heroes. And this is going to help you figure out how to do that. Anyways, thanks for sitting through it. And until next time, enjoy the grind.